Today, it's a one dish, one pot for both of us. This is a vegan spring risotto with mushrooms, chickpeas, and asparagus. Join us to see how we do it. Hello, welcome back, and let's do some spring risotto. And this is a one pot. This is a one dish for both of us. And let's get this started. So on almost all Instant Pots, this is the Pampered Chef version, there is a sear button. So I turned it, and usually the sear lasts for 20 minutes. So as you can see, I turned the sear on. It's been searing for 2 minutes. So the first part of what we're going to do is we need to cook our asparagus most of the way. So I'm going to add a little water because I don't use oil. So we know that's hot enough. So I've got my asparagus here. Now, I don't know if I didn't save any, I guess I should have. But asparagus, when you get it home, make sure you treat it just like you do a bouquet and get it out of that plastic bag. Get it into a big container, a vase, whatever you want to do. Put a little water in there, and that way it's ready for you when you're ready, and it will keep. Otherwise, the tops, I know especially I have found, get really slimy. So we're just going to let this cook for 2 or 3 minutes. We just want this to become bright green, and then we're going to stop the cooking process because we don't want to cook this for the same amount of time that the entire risotto dish cooks. It would just be mush by the time it came out. Back to the asparagus. So then when you take it out, you need to hold it, and then where it naturally breaks, that's the part that needs to either go in your compost bin or whatever. That's the end. That's the very tough part. That leaves you with the usually about 3/4 of it. So what I like to do is I buy the smaller ones. I don't like the big fat asparagus. And then I cut the stems pretty small, but when I get to the top, it's more tender, so I leave that a little bigger. Hence why you will see that there's different sizes in here, because that's just the way we like it. I will say asparagus took us, we didn't discover asparagus till 12 years ago, maybe. And he loves it actually more than I do. So I cook it for him a lot. I love it when you mix it with corn. There is something about those flavors together I really like. But boy, asparagus took us a long time to figure out, because there is a fine line of done and mush. It's not good mush. I don't like it overly crunchy either. So it's a very fine line in our household. So as you can see, this is getting brighter as it goes on, which is what we want, because we're going to put it back in the risotto once it is done, and that it will kind of heat it back up. But again, you don't want this all the way done. Otherwise, it'll just be mush. So we got that going. It's almost done. And then I'm going to dump it. I have in here just a bowl with some ice, a couple cups of ice, and some cold water. And once you add this to it, it will stop that cooking process immediately. If we just laid it off to the side, it's just going to continue to cook. And then it would be, not very good once we add it to the risotto at the end. So another thing, and if you've never used your Instant Pot or your quick cooker with the sear function, it's fantastic, because then it just makes it a one-pot meal. And that's exactly what we're going to do with all of these ingredients, which I love. Okay, so these is done. So you see everything is bright green. And so I'm going to stop that cooking process now. But I'm going to let the sear stay on, because we need to sear our onions and our mushrooms. So we're going to start with the onions. Let me just get the asparagus out. Ooh, I can do that. I didn't know if it'd be too hot. Okay, so once again, I'm going to leave the sear on. I'm going to add a little bit. I always keep water next to me because I don't want things to stick. And let's add in our onions. I just got one small onion chopped up nice and small. We're going to get that started because it's going to take a little bit more than the mushrooms. Now, I'm using a recipe from Pass the Plants. You could easily change out the vegetables if you want. I thought of another veg. If you weren't an asparagus fan, you could switch it out with spring peas, and that would be delicious. So we've got these going. So we're going to let them go for just a minute or so. And then we're going to add mushrooms. Now, her recipe calls for cremini mushrooms. Could not find those yesterday at the store. I did want to go to multiple stores. So I ended up with mini baby bellas. And I just cut them into, you can also, and another use for your egg slicer is you can use that with your mushrooms. So if you wanted them perfectly, mine are not perfect. They're all different things. I just did it by hand with my knife. So we've got the onions in here. You can see they're starting to soften up, and I've still got liquid in there, so they're not sticking, which is good. That's why you keep your water near you, and that way you don't have to use any oil to cook, because I don't need the extra calories in the oil nor the fat. So boy, these are looking, and they smell so, so good. So you don't actually add much seasoning to this except salt if you want, or pepper. So I'm going to add a little pepper now to it, but I'll probably add more once we open this up and it's done. So there we go. Oh, those are coming along fantastically. See, you don't have to get a second pot out for it. So let's add our mushrooms. This is an 8-ounce package of Baby Bellas that I chopped up. So you might say, well, how is this a one dish? Well, Joe does like rice, not his fave, but he does like rice, and risotto is a creamy rice. I also now I know I've told you guys before that sometimes for mushroom things, I cut it really small because then Joe will be okay eating it. But my thought with this was he's willing to try this, but if there's a big mushroom, he'll just eat around that, because asparagus is, like I said, one of his favorites. And so he said he'd be willing to give this a try. And this is most likely, we're not positive, it might be our side for our Easter dinner. We haven't decided, or will it be for our lunches? So we're still debating that. We got the other stuff going, but I got potatoes cooked too. So I haven't decided which one we're going to do yet. But boy, that is looking so fantastic. So what's the difference between risotto and rice? Well, number one, risotto uses a special kind of rice, which is this one, our barrio rice, which is very creamy. I think it's creamy like a barley and a farro is, but I've never made risotto with that. So I'm going with the standard recipe, as I have made it before with our barrio rice. Usually when you go to the rice section of the store, it's higher up. So you gotta look up and see that's where it's at. And it usually comes in a plastic container versus like a bag or anything like that some of the other rices come in. So boy, these are looking fantastic. So the other key to risotto is usually you have to do a lot of stirring. So when I discovered you could do it in the Instapot, which I've done before, I've just never used this particular recipe. It's like, well, this is fantastic, because then it just takes away all that stirring you got to do. But the key is to make sure that you toast your rice. So we're actually going to add the rice here in just a few minutes, the dry rice, and it will get toasty with all of this before we add the liquid. So let's go ahead and get that ready. So it calls for 2 cups of the barrio rice. So let's see how these are still looking good. So we're down to 11 minutes. And what happens on your Instapot is if you've got it seared, once the 20 minutes is up, it's just going to turn off, and then you can just start it again if you had something you want to sear. The other thing is, little tip, if you've done something in your Instapot and maybe it needs to be, or maybe you made something and then people didn't make it home for dinner in time, so you had to turn it off, you can use sear to heat it up. Or if you need to thicken something, you could add a little cornstarch in the water and the slurry and use the sear to try to get that to thicken up. So you can use it before or after if you need to. So let's get our first cup of the barrio rice in. Okay, cup number 1. Cup number 2. Let's get this toasted. So Joe and I should be able to smell that really quickly. I wish you guys had smell-o-vision, because these mushrooms and onions just smell so good. So yes, it's starting to toast. Now I'm not going to add any more liquid because I want it to toast, and I know I'm going to add this broth here in just very shortly. But we're just going to let that toast for about a minute. Probably won't need any more water. Let's add a little more pepper. We like pepper around here. Okay. Can you hear it? It's toasting, which is fantastic. Yes, and you want to stir it so it doesn't stick, because now that I know that it's in there toasting, that's what I don't want. I don't want it to be sticking, and I don't want the burn on the Instapot. That would be bad. Okay, so it's toasted for about a minute. So let's add the rest of the ingredients. So we have got 4 cups of vegetable broth. So I did the better than bouillon and made my own. So let's pour that in. I lost some of the better than bouillon. Okay. Other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stop this. I want to get everything mixed in and stirred, and then I'm going to actually turn it on. And the next ingredient is 1 can of chickpeas. Now, I actually cooked a big batch of chickpeas because I'm going to do chickpea salad for camping later. So if you do make your chickpeas on your own, it's about 1.5 cups is what a 15-ounce can is. And so I don't need to rinse because I, did them here and there's no salt in them or anything. And you want to make sure that you've stirred and there's no rice sticking on the bottom. Now, it may fall to the bottom. We just want to make sure nothing's sticking on the bottom at this point. And there is nothing. So let's turn this on. And it only takes, let me verify, I'm pretty sure it's just 5 minutes, which I think is the other amazing thing. Yep. You're going to put it on high for 5 minutes. So depending on your Instapot. So for mine, this particular brand, I'm just going to do custom. I'm going to turn it, custom, and then turn it to 5 minutes. Oop. And there you go. So if you've never used your Instapot before, if this is the recipe that convinces you to get it out of the cupboard and use it, excellent. Keep in mind, if you want to eat in 5 minutes, this ain't going to work because it needs time to pressurize. And that can be anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes. I will say this is probably going to pressurize quicker because it's warm in there. When I do potatoes and things like that, I make sure the liquid that I put in is hot because then it takes less time to pressurize. And you always need at least 1 cup of liquid in order for it to pressurize. If you just put in there with no liquid, it will not pressurize. So keep that in mind. So we'll be back as soon as this is done and we'll let you know what it tastes like. See you soon. Okay, it's been, about 25 minutes because it had to get up to temperature. It did the 5 minutes, and then at the 5 minutes, you do a manual release of it. So for me and my quick cooker, I just hit that down, and then when all the pressure is released, the pin will drop. I think on Instapot, you have to turn something, so just make sure you look at your manual. So now what I want to do is I'm going to leave it on, but I want to show you. We have not looked at it. This is going to be all of us looking at it together. Oh, buddy, that looks so good. Look at that deliciousness. So I drained the asparagus. I'm going to add it back in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover it back up to get that asparagus to heat up while I talk about one last ingredient that is your option to do. So I'm going to put the lid back on. Oh, wrong one. It's just in the warming mode. Okay, so we've got it on. It's just in warming. I just want to get that up to temperature. So one thing she suggested you could add to it is some cashew cream. So I went to the recipe and actually I had exactly 2 cups of raw cashews left. That's the key to any of these cashew items that you make is they need to be raw cashews, which are admittedly very hard to find. And they're very high in fat, cashews are. So I don't make much with the cashew stuff. So what I made is going to be a lot, and it does not all go in here. So, this is also her recipe. So it's 2 cups of raw cashews. I always soak mine in hot water. I have a high-speed blender, but I just want to make sure it doesn't have a problem. And then 1 cup of water, some nutritional yeast. Now, I'll post this recipe in addition to her other recipe. And a non-flavored vinegar. And then you blend it. And that's what we have here, is this cashew cream. You can see it's thick. It can be used like mayonnaise, so you can make it with a chickpea salad or no tuna salad, whatever you want to call that. You could use it in like quesadillas and things like that. There's a lot you can do with it. And just like if you make it the sweet version of it, which I have done, I think on another episode, you can freeze it. So this made, 2 cups of it. We need 1/4 cup for this. And I'm going to probably keep out about 1/2 cup for, later this week. But then the rest of it, I'm going to freeze in the small containers. And that way I don't have to make this very often. So that's what this is. This is optional to add. She says it's a good idea. So we're going to add it and see what happens. So let's take this off. Oh my gosh, it looks so good. What do you think, Joe? You going to try it first before I put this in? Oh.
I don't know if I necessarily need it.
You don't think so?
Kind of creamy and good.
Well, so you want to say maybe don't add it?
You tell me.
Oh, it smells so good.
I don't know if that quarter cup's going to make difference.
Okay, that's hot.
Yeah.
What do you think?
That's good, just like it is, I think. You just have to pick around the mushrooms, but and I'm not thrilled about the chickpeas in there. But
I will say, I cook them when I make my own chickpeas. I cook them longer because I like them more. I don't like them as chewy. So with that and the fact they were in there, they're probably pretty. They're probably pretty tender. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Asparagus is just right. It's a little al dente, but not mush by no means.
Yeah, we don't. Plus, again, we're not going to eat all this in one sitting, which means you're going to have to heat it up for lunches or something. So I'm going to.
To be honest, that one last bite I had a chickpea on it. I don't know if chickpeas do they even add any flavor to it.
Well, chickpeas take on whatever flavor you want. But what I like about this is a one-pot meal. You got some veggies in there. You got your protein in there. And for me, for a lunch, I would pair either beets with it on the side or a little salad to get more veg in to balance out. But this has everything in it you need. So you're saying don't add the cashew cream. Don't add the calories and fat.
If you're talking about fat being a disadvantage of it, I don't think that needs it.
Well, there you go. You heard it straight from Joe's mouth. That is so good. That bite had everything. The asparagus, the chickpea. Now, I think it needs a little more pepper. But other than that,
it does need a little more seasoning. It's kind of bland.
So you want me to add some garlic to it, maybe? I got it getting ready to go in the camper, so I'll have to add it off camera. Well, there you go. So there you go. So this is another way you can make a dish that everybody can eat. And the arborio rice, you could probably use the same formula. Just pick what veggie you want to add to it. So thank you all so much for joining us. And in the comments, let us know, is this something you're willing to try? A one-pot dish that can put everything that you need in it. And that means only one dish too. Well, of course, besides your fork. So thank you all so much for joining us. And we hope you have a great day.